Welcome to Miss Nightmare. Tonight's tale is truly haunting. Prepare yourself. This is the story of a self-portrait, one that captures more than just a likeness. It is said to steal the souls of those it depicts, and those foolish enough to possess it. Tonight we delve into darkness. Are you brave enough to face the nightmare? The tale begins centuries ago with a nameless artist driven by a dark obsession. He sought to capture death itself on canvas, believing it to be the ultimate muse. He mixed his paints with a gruesome concoction: blood, bone dust, and the tears of mourners. Finally, he unveiled his masterpiece, a self-portrait, as lifelike as a mirror, and just as cold. The portrait passed from hand to hand, each owner meeting an untimely end. Some died in freak accidents, others succumbed to sudden illnesses, all within days of acquiring the portrait. Centuries later, it resurfaced in a dusty antique shop, its history forgotten. A young art collector drawn to its beauty purchased it, unaware of the darkness he invited into his life. At first, nothing seemed amiss. The portrait hung above the fireplace, a captivating centerpiece. But soon, things began to change. Shadows danced at the edge of his vision, whispers echoed in the dead of night. He dismissed them as tricks of the light, tiredness playing on his mind. But deep down, a seed of unease had been planted. He couldn't shake the feeling of being watched by those piercing eyes in the portrait. Section 5. The Eyes That Follow. Days turned into sleepless nights. The whispers grew louder, more insistent. The eyes in the portrait seemed to follow his every move, their gaze cold, accusing. He tried to move the portrait, to hide it away, but it was as if it were rooted to the spot. Fear began to consume him. He was living in a nightmare, haunted by his own reflection. Section 6. A Brush with Death. One night he awoke to a cold chill and a suffocating pressure on his chest. He opened his eyes to see a figure standing over him, its features hidden in the darkness. He tried to scream, but no sound came out. He was paralyzed with terror as the figure drew closer. Just as suddenly, it vanished, leaving behind the faint scent of decay and the chilling realization he had narrowly escaped death. The night was eerily silent, the kind of silence that makes you acutely aware of every creak and whisper in the house. The clock on the wall showed 3 a.m., the witching hour, when the veil between the living and the dead is said to be thinnest. Moonlight filtered through the curtains, casting ghostly shadows on the walls. He had always been a skeptic, dismissing tales of the supernatural as mere stories. But this night was different. His eyes snapped open, wide with fear, as he felt an icy chill envelop his body. Beads of sweat formed on his forehead despite the cold. The pressure on his chest was unbearable, as if an invisible force was trying to crush him. He struggled to move, to cry out for help, but his body refused to obey. It was as if he was trapped in a nightmare, unable to wake up. The figure standing over him seemed to grow more distinct, its outline becoming clearer in the dim light. He could make out the faintest hint of a face, twisted in a grotesque expression. The air around him grew thick with the scent of decay, a putrid smell that made his stomach churn. He could feel the figure's malevolent presence, its intent clear. It wanted to claim him. Just as he thought he could bear no more, the figure suddenly vanished, as if it had never been there. The room returned to its normal state, the oppressive atmosphere lifting. He lay there gasping for breath, his heart pounding in his chest. The scent of decay lingered, a grim reminder of his brush with death. He knew he had been given a second chance, a warning to cherish every moment of life. As dawn broke and sunlight streamed into the room, he felt a sense of profound relief. The terror of the night began to fade, replaced by a renewed appreciation for the simple act of breathing, of being alive. He vowed never to take life for granted again, to live each day with purpose and gratitude. The memory of that night would stay with him forever, a haunting reminder of how fragile life truly is. Section 7. Trapped in the canvas. Desperate, he sought answers, researching the portrait's history, uncovering its dark past. He learned of the artist's obsession, the gruesome ingredients of his paints, and the curse that bound them. He realized with horror. He was not just haunted by the portrait, but trapped by it, his life force slowly being drained to fuel its power. Section 8. The portrait's secret. Driven to the brink, he decided on a desperate act to destroy the portrait and break the curse. He took the canvas to his basement and raised a hammer, but as he was about to strike, he noticed something, an inscription, hidden beneath the frame, scrawled in what looked like dried blood. It read, "The eyes are the window to the soul. To break the curse, the soul must be returned." Section 9. Breaking the curse. He understood that this was no ordinary task. The weight of centuries-old magic pressed down on him, and he knew that the fate of many rested on his shoulders. The inscription was a clue, a cryptic message left by those who had tried and failed before him. It read, "Only the pure of heart can break the chains that bind the soul." The artist's soul was trapped within the portrait, a masterpiece that had become a prison. The eyes of the painting seemed to follow him, pleading for release, a silent cry for freedom. He needed to find a way to release it, to undo the dark magic that had ensnared the artist's spirit. The ritual was complex, requiring not just skill, but also courage and determination. To sever the bond between the artist and his creation, he had to confront his deepest fears. With trembling hands, he prepared himself for the task ahead, knowing that one wrong move could doom them both. He took a palette knife, the very tool the artist had used to create his final masterpiece. The knife felt heavy in his hand, laden with the weight of its history and the gravity of the moment, and carefully removed the eyes from the portrait. Each stroke was deliberate, each cut precise as he worked to free the trapped spirit. The eyes, once so full of life, now lay lifeless on the floor. As the last brushstroke of the artist's soul was severed, a palpable shift occurred in the room. The air grew lighter, the oppressive atmosphere lifting as the supernatural connection was broken. The portrait lost its power. The canvas went blank, the vibrant colors fading into nothingness. It was as if the very essence of the painting was being drained away, leaving behind an empty shell, as if life itself had been drained from it. The once haunted portrait was now just a canvas, devoid of any supernatural influence. The curse was broken, and the artist's soul was finally free, able to rest in peace after centuries of torment. He felt a wave of relief wash over him, knowing that he had succeeded where so many had failed. The weight of the curse lifted, and he could finally breathe easy, his mission accomplished. Sunlight streamed into the room, casting a warm glow on the now blank canvas. It was a new beginning, a fresh start, free from the shadows of the past. The curse was broken, and with it, a new chapter began. Section 10. Join the nightmare. The curse was lifted, but the experience left him forever changed, haunted by the memory. The portrait was gone, but the nightmare lived on, a chilling reminder of the darkness that lurks beneath the surface. The shadows seemed to whisper his name, calling him back to the place where it all began. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of the leaves outside his window sent shivers down his spine. He could never escape the feeling that he was being watched, that unseen eyes were always upon him. The nights were the worst. Sleep became a distant memory, replaced by endless hours of staring into the darkness, waiting for the next terror to strike. The once comforting silence of his home now felt oppressive, filled with the echoes of his own fear. He tried to convince himself that it was all in his head, that the curse was truly gone. But deep down he knew the truth. The nightmare had become a part of him, an inescapable shadow that followed him wherever he went. He sought solace in the daylight, but even the sun's rays couldn't chase away the lingering dread. Friends and family noticed the change in him, the way his eyes darted around the room, the way he jumped at the slightest sound. They tried to help, but how could they understand the horrors he had faced? How could they comprehend the darkness that had taken root in his soul? He turned to books, hoping to find some explanation, some way to rid himself of the nightmare. But the more he read, the more he realized that some things are beyond understanding, beyond escape. The stories he found only deepened his fear, confirming that the darkness he felt was real, that it had claimed others before him and would continue to do so long after he was gone. Thank you for joining me on this chilling journey. Sleep well, and beware the shadows, for you never know what may be watching. Don't forget to subscribe to Miss Nightmare for more tales from the dark side. Remember, the darkness is always closer than you think, lurking just beyond the edge of the light. Stay vigilant, and perhaps, just perhaps, you might avoid becoming the next victim of the nightmare.